Hi everyone, this is Lila'Angelique. It's been a while since I've shared Timelapses, but I lost my iPad in the middle of filming this one. I have no idea where it went and I never found it. So I got kind of discouraged with sharing for a little while. But here I am again. This piece ended up being the cover for my first solo album, Zoria Alorium, The Outer Realms, which is incredible that I was able to create my first solo album. I'd been wanting to do that all of my life. This is also the first time I had an image in my head that was quite clear, and then I was able to really put it onto canvas in the way that I had envisioned it in my head. And that felt pretty phenomenal for me. This was my 10th canvas painting, so by this point I felt like I had a lot more confidence with my skills. I'd created a lot of different sizes of canvases, different types of images. I'd done self-portraits, I'd done landscapes. So by this point, and I'd been painting on canvas for about a year and a half up to this point, so I really had a lot of confidence with the process. And I'm always surprised, though, that it comes out as well as it does, to be honest. This is my 11th canvas painting, and for this one I decided to do more of a landscape. And I wanted to... Doing landscapes for me is challenging because I'm not very good with perspective. That's not something I ever learned. I never took art lessons in my life. I took one art lesson when I was probably 15 years old, in which they were showing us how to paint a vase. And I said to myself, I don't want to paint inanimate objects. I want to paint things from my imagination. So I never took any lessons. I just taught myself. And after creating probably several hundred drawings and coming to Bali and getting settled, I finally allowed myself to start painting on canvas. And canvas painting, it's a feeling of bigness. It feels beyond me. And as you can see, I really like dressing up every day and expressing myself, even though I'm sitting quietly in the corner all day listening to music and painting. It gives me a similar feeling to when we would perform. I get to go into this other world and kind of escape the everyday life experience. It's not the same as performing, because performing is very much a public expression of creativity, whereas art is very much a private expression. It's something that I do completely by myself, which I would say I really enjoy, actually. I really do like this experience of quietly sitting there all day long working on something and manifesting something in a physical reality that's in my head. And I'm using a lot of references, tons of different references for different parts of the image to help me, to give me confidence with what I'm doing. And because I've never been taught and I don't really have anything to, it's not like I have anybody reflecting to me anything that this is good or this is not good or anything like that. It's just all me trying to figure it out and using all of the techniques that I have basically to create an image in the best way that I can. And I would definitely say that some days are very much harder than other days. Sometimes I'm incredibly inspired and motivated and driven and visionary, and I'm excited about working on my pieces. And then other days I'm just totally lackluster and uninspired and overwhelmed and just feeling like, what's the fucking point of all of this work that I'm doing? And as you can see, I am a piece of art. My hair is art, my clothing is art, everything that I do is art. And something I'm really, really grateful about in regards to our life here is that I do have the privilege of being able to spend all of my time on the things that I really enjoy doing. And if I actually counted up all of the time, put together all of the time that I spent on each one of these pieces, and I probably spend 50 hours on each piece. Each one takes a couple of months to get right. So all of these videos that you're seeing are months of time and hours. Each session is hours of time to get them right. And I get a little bit of, with each session of work, an hour or two of work, I'm getting small amounts of work done. And that's the process. That's what it's like. And yet the thing that I would say that I've learned most with my work is that I do understand completely that by dedicating myself to the process and giving myself the time that is needed to create these images, to create music, to create anything, because it does take a lot of time, that I am able to manifest some really wonderful things that I can then enjoy and be proud of. And no one can take away that I did it. And I know that I spent the time that was needed to execute these projects, because painting isn't all fun and games. It's definitely not just fun and you're just creating and inspired all the time. Sometimes you're depressed, and sometimes you're doubtful, and sometimes you're lonely, and there are many times when I've been working on pieces that I've felt a lot of very sad, negative, hopeless feelings. But I do find that when I'm working on my pieces, that if I just let myself feel those feelings and keep going, that I end up, of course, I forget how I felt. And I find it so interesting to observe these time lapses all these months later and see how every day I dress up and I'm sitting there, I'm dressing up just for myself and my canvas, and I'm sitting there for hours and hours and hours working on my paintings. And then when I'm not working on my paintings, I'm working on my music, and I'm working on costuming, and I'm working on designing clothes, and I'm working on all sorts of creative things. And these days, now that we're in this time of quiet and serenity in our lives, which we're very blessed to experience, I have come to the understanding that there is no excuse anymore to not just do the hard work that needs to be done. So this one is my 12th canvas painting, I think. And this was a few months before we moved into our house, our home, our first ever home. So a lot of things were going on during this process of creating this piece. And I find that with any piece that I start on, new pieces that I do, I always try to challenge myself to do something I've not done before, to expand my abilities, to try something I've never done and see if I can do it, because I have nothing to lose, for sure. I'm the only one that sees my work, me and my husband and sometimes my friends. So why not just try something new and see if I can do it? And I love seeing the work unfolding, and this process of just painting the clouds was probably, I think I worked on this for a week, just trying to get all the clouds looking cloud-like. And I don't think I'd ever really painted clouds before. And I do have a lot of fun exploring colors. I am quite skilled, naturally skilled at mixing colors. I mix them in my hands. I mix them in the tubes. I don't have a palette. I just mix them very intuitively. And that experience, like this particular experience of creating these beautiful colored clouds, is really fun. And then with this piece, I had kind of an idea in my head of what I wanted to do, but then it's the process of executing it. And I had this image of these floating monster creature type beings floating above this cityscape. And I tend to like doing things like that. Like the tentacles took forever. I think it took a couple of days just to get these tentacles looking tentacly, I guess. And so that the process is finding techniques and ways to make an image look as realistic as I can, I guess, because these images that I'm making, they're not realistic, they're not supposed to be real world scenarios at all. They're otherworldly scenarios. But there's a process of finding references, imagining how something would look, because shadow and light, things look a certain way, and when you do create an image in a certain way and you put the shadow in a certain position, you put the light in a certain position, then it tends to look realistic, even if it's not a real image. And I like that. I try my best. I'm not a hyper-realistic painter by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely like to challenge myself to try and make the image as realistic as I can. A lot of the time when I'm working, it's not necessarily that I believe that I can do it. I don't have 100% confidence while I'm working on my craft. As each painting progresses, I feel more and more confident, I'd say, as the piece goes on and on. But I'd say I do have doubt. I do have self-doubts about if I can execute it, because these pieces are quite complex, and I tend to do a lot of detail work, and they take a lot of time and energy and focus to get them right. And I definitely push myself to do things that are, I definitely have a style, but I do challenge myself to do things that I've not done before with each piece. Each piece I'm always trying to grow and learn and expand my abilities, because I see each canvas basically as an opportunity to stretch myself in a new direction, because, as I said, it's not like anybody really sees it right now. It's possible someday that people will see it, but I think for me, working on something that I really believe in and that is pushing me and challenging me to create images that are really imaginative and otherworldly, but also have a realistic look to them at the same time, that it's something that is an otherworldly creature or landscape, but it still looks, you can understand it being something that could be real. And that's the thing I love about painting, is that I'm able to go into this other world while I'm working. I get to try to create something that in any other situation would be just in my head. It would just be an imaginary thing, and it wouldn't be real. And painting allows me to make it as real as I can. And sometimes I'm having to try things and experiment, and I make mistakes, and I have to start over again, and I have to try new things and try different techniques. With this eye on the left, I had to try a few different techniques to get it to look the way I wanted it to look. And it's always allowing myself to go with the flow and enjoy the process as much as I can, because sometimes it can be very tedious, and like, for example, those tentacles and the little veins in the eyeball, it takes a lot of energy and time to get it right. Getting all these teeth, everything takes time. Each session is, maybe 1 or 2 hours of time, and I get these little bits of the painting done. So it is about trusting myself and trusting my skill. And the more I paint, the more I create, the more I trust myself. And I find that to be true, absolutely. That if I keep working at my craft, when I started painting, when I started drawing, I'd say, I was about 18 years old, I think. So I think it was about 20 years ago that I started this journey, this personal, private journey of creativity. And nobody told me what to do, and also nobody told me what not to do, so I was very much free to follow my own intuition. And with all the creative things that I do, they're all incredibly intuitive processes for me. Processes, I'd say. Everything is mine, and I don't have any way that I particularly feel like it needs to be, that it must be like this or that, because I'm not following any certain technique. It's all from my own self. And when I go through this process. It's very exploratory. I mean, right now I am painting something that is not from this world, and I am trying to create it in a way that looks real in my eyes, that feels real. I want it to be something that I can look at it and say, oh wow, that is an otherworldly image that is futuristic and outrageous and colorful and wild and strange. But it also looks like something that could really exist in the worlds, in the universe or the galaxy somewhere. That it maybe is a physical manifestation of some extraterrestrial thing that only I can manifest through my imagination. And art has really given me that ability. And the more skill I develop, the more I'm able to create these images. Because I think just the same as I've always had the music that I've made in my head, I've had the music I have on my albums in my head since I was a little girl, since I first discovered Cirque du Soleil. But I didn't have the skill set to actually create the music. I needed to learn a lot of skills first in order to be able to manifest that music in my head as an album. And now I have 2 albums, and I'm working on a 3rd one presently. And so that's what makes it worth it to me, is that I'm able to, through working diligently at my craft, all of these creative crafts that I have the blessing of time to learn how to do on my own, I am able to make them, to get better and better at them, just because I'm dedicated to learning and growing and expanding my skills. And I think I how I previously said that I no longer have, I don't have any excuses anymore. I don't have anything else I need to be doing other than take care of my husband and manage the household and keep things going in life. But, my primary focus in my life now is pursuing my craft and expanding my abilities as an artist. And I have the privilege of being able to do that. It's a great privilege that I get to sit for many, 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 many hours each day and work on my craft, because as I now know, and any artist knows who really pursues their craft the way that I do, is that it takes a lot of time to get it right. But in regards to me and my life, this is how I am lucky in my own life. I haven't been lucky in regards to becoming recognized or being known for the things that I've created, like some people, but I have been lucky in that I've been able to create a life and have a life in which creativity and art are my main focuses in life, and that I can and I do, and I have built up these skills over my life to be able to pursue these creative crafts that I really enjoy doing. And I said to myself probably 20 years ago when I first started drawing and painting that my goal with my creativity is to be able to create things from my imagination. And if and when the day comes that I am able to create things from my imagination, then I will have succeeded. And I have succeeded at my art because I can now do that. I now have the skills needed to create things from my imagination. And it's taken me 20 years of time to get to this level of skill. And I would say it's 100% worth it. And I'm really proud of myself for not giving up. And I know now that I never will give up on my work. I'll never give up on this process because I enjoy the process. And I think that's the most important thing, is to find a way to enjoy the process and really be with the process and trust the process.